I've been podcasting for a long, long time. We've well passed over 6 million downloads. I've loved real estate for all of my life, just loved being in houses, bought my first house when I was 21 years old. Well, hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome. I'm doing an entire audible on this podcast this week. And first of all, I just wanted the opportunity to use the word audible in a sentence because my husband, Jason, Mr. Magic, as Facebook has named him, he had to teach me what an audible was because I didn't know. Apparently it's a football term. I'm not a big football player, except for now, since I live in Kansas City, you know, with the whole Travis and Taylor thing. And now I'm invested. And anyway, so I think I'm doing an audible here and going to shift the topic of this podcast. And so team, just be flexible with me, if you will. So I'll table what I was going to talk about for next week's episode. And if you guys did not know, we have gone down to just one episode a week. And I got some questions about that. Actually, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to answer for you guys the most common questions that I've received in the last couple of weeks on social media, because sometimes when I get them over and over, I'm like, it would just be easier to tell everybody all at once. And it's also kind of weird. Like, you know how there's that thing on Instagram where you can say, ask me anything. Well, sometimes that feels like a little bit of a, I don't know, like this weird, like humble brag, as if anybody cares to ask me something. You know what I mean? It's like, does anybody even really care enough to ask me any questions? Like, I am not a big deal. And so does that make sense? And so sometimes it's like, I'd love to answer questions in a public setting, like on Instagram stories, for instance, but then I feel weird about asking, like, ask me anything. I don't know. I'm probably not explaining that well. It just feels weird. Okay. But I have kind of kept track recently of a lot of questions I've gotten over and over. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do a podcast on this. My team's going to be like, but I thought you were going to talk about numbers that don't matter. And I'm like, I know, but I think I'm going to talk about this instead. So here we go. Okay. So there'll be some personal and business and stuff in here both. So one of the questions that I received in a lot in the last couple of weeks is, why are you only going down to one podcast a week instead of two, like you've done for several years? Well, first of all, I've been doing podcasting for a long, long time. If you guys listen to my podcast episode with John Acuff about his new book, this is my 6th year. This is my 5th year. 5th year of podcasting, 5th year. I have well over like 550 episodes, I think. I should do the math on that, because I used to have something called like Monday Fire, and then I had regular podcast episodes. It's the whole thing. And John Acuff was telling me like only 3% or 1% of the people get past 3 episodes ever or something on a podcast. So what I'm trying to say is, I've been podcasting for a long, long time. We've well passed over 6 million downloads. And I love doing the podcast. However, I started having this little bit of a feeling, and I have a whole podcast about this, so go watch that. But I started having this feeling like, am I giving away so much good stuff for free on my podcast that it's actually like a disservice almost to my paying clients? In addition, I'm 52. And if I can deliver really great results for people and give people really great coaching in the least amount of hours possible, that's what I'm going to do. And so I told my team I'm ready to go down to just one episode a week. So here we are. So that's one question. And second question, I get a ton, is whether or not I'm still using crunchy makeup. And yes, I am. So if you're watching on the YouTube, you'll even see that I did like a nudish lip today or something. I don't know. I follow this lady on Instagram, you guys. She does makeup for women over 40, and her hashtag is like over 40 makeup, over 50 makeup. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. But anyhow, she's like, when you get to where you're like late 40s, early 50s, you're not supposed to line your lips all the way out to the corners. You're supposed to just keep your liner like in the middle and on the top of the middle. And then you're supposed to use something glossy so that your lips look fuller. So how am I doing? How am I doing on YouTube? Let me know. The question is, do you still use crunchy? Yes, I do. What color of foundation do you use? That's the number one question. Okay. So first of all, if you don't know what crunchy is, it's like a non-toxic, very natural makeup that doesn't have a ton of crap in it. And because I've had some other weird health issues, which we'll talk about in a second, I'm trying to do what I can to eliminate a few toxins where I can. Okay. The truth is like eliminating all the toxins in our environment is just a completely overwhelming process that I can't even begin to wrap my head around. And so I'm just doing a few little things. So foundation is one of them. Because remember how I talked on one of my podcast episodes about how I got this DM from somebody that was like, you wear 100 pounds of makeup. And I'm like, and maybe I do. And what about it? I will always wear makeup. You will never see me here on YouTube without a face of makeup. You won't see me going to the grocery store without makeup. You won't see me running a 5K without makeup. Like, it's just not going to happen. I love makeup. So anyhow, if I'm going to wear makeup, let's try to at least get the foundation, the blush and stuff to be where it's non-toxic. So the question though that I get is, what color foundation? So I'm, for a blonde, I don't feel like my complexion is super, super light, but I'm wearing 2.5. In the winter, when my skin is transparent, translucent, whatever, I'm going to wear 2.0. And in the summer, when I've got on my, summer tan, when I'm in my summer tan era, I wear 2.75. So I could, in theory, have 2.25 and 2.75 and mix them together to get the 2.5. So that anyhow, I have 3 different shades. If you would like to try it, you can go to crunchy.com/Jennifer Allwood, all one word. It'll give you $10 off the first time you try it. Yes, it's it's an affiliate link, but like I'm signed up for them. So I do get paid when people order it. It's a couple bucks. So please know that I'm not getting rich over here. But just wanted to be completely transparent about that. But you do get $10 off. So there's that. Okay. So wanted to tell you that, the other day, next question. People were asking me about Jason's hip and his pain. Okay, so we just got back. I just spent, Jason and I spent a week in Florida. He was actually only there for 4 days. I was there for 7. And then we just spent 8 days at our house in Arizona. And so we spent, a good week at our place in Florida, which is called Bougie on the Beach, if you want to follow that on Instagram. And it's spelled Boujee, because the truth is, when I was naming it, because somebody has asked me before, like, how did you come up with that name? Well, I was telling this decorator friend of mine, like, I want it to be bougie. And I'm like, like bougie on the beach. And then I was like, da-da-da. That is the name, folks. And, but we spelled it Boujee because of Jennifer and Jason. We could have done it like Bougie, I don't know, J-I-E. There's a million different alliterations or spellings. And so that's the one that we picked. Funny side note. I was originally going to name our property in Florida that is, on Airbnb and VRBO, the Pink Pineapple. And then my friend Dory, who owns Simple Southern Charm, she's a decorator. She's amazing. She helped me pick out some of the furniture for both houses. She was like, you can't call it that. I'm like, why not? Why not? Can I not call it the Pink Pineapple? And the reason I was going to call it the Pink Pineapple is because I had pink pineapple wallpaper going in the bathroom. She's like, Jen, no. I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, well, it's a thing in the South. I'm like, what do you mean it's a thing in the South? And she's like, Google, what does pink pineapple mean? So I Google it in my innocence. And apparently that's a sign that you're like swingers. And she's like, Jen, you cannot call it the Pink Pineapple. You can't put pink pineapple wallpaper into your house, or people who live in the South are instantly going to assume that you and Jason are swingers. Oh my gosh. Did you guys know this? If you're on YouTube, but this was news to me. And my son Easton, who edits all of my podcasts for YouTube, he's learning new information, I'm sure, right now also. Welcome to adulthood, Easton. But anyhow, so Jason and I spent a week at Bougie on the Beach, and then we spent a week at Bougie in the Desert. And we got back on Sunday. We were actually celebrating the week in the desert with my best friend Laura, who is 5 years cancer-free that week. She actually, she had a very rare kind of liver cancer that when she was diagnosed, they told her like 5 years is like, the mark that you want to get to without reoccurrence of the cancer. And when you get to 5 years, then you have like an 80% or 85% chance, something like that, of the cancer never returning. So she has made it to 5 years. Can we just say praise God for that? And so we were celebrating her life, and we were celebrating our friend Randy being 6 months cancer-free from lymphoma. And we were celebrating Jason and I turning 26 years. Wait, did I say turning? Just celebrating 26 years of marriage. And so, Jason always says, how many of those were happy, honey? And we like to joke, only 23 or 24 of those 26 were actually happy. Any of you who have been married for any length of time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyhow, we're in Arizona. What is my point now? This is going to be a bad time in the podcast. What is my point? I don't know. Anyhow, well, I think what happened was I got home and I was doing some stories from people or on Instagram. People were responding to stories, and somebody asked about Jason's hip pain. Oh, I know what it was. This is it. Thank you, Jesus, for helping me remember. People were asking me, which of your homes do you prefer? the beach house or the one in the desert? And I said, I prefer the beach. I prefer bougie on the beach, but Jason prefers bougie in the desert because it's really difficult for him after having a cycling accident 2.5 years ago to walk down all the stairs. We have 99 steps from our condo to the ocean. That's a lot of steps when you have hip pain. And then if you can imagine walking on the sand, it's very shifty, right? Also, when he goes into the ocean, like with one of the kids or something, the sand is very shifty and it puts so much like pressure on his hip that it just doesn't feel good. And so he prefers to go to the desert also, because there's a million golf courses to look at and our two boys live out there. So anyhow, then somebody asked, how is Jason's hip pain? And the truth is, it's awful, you guys. It's literally awful. I might have done a podcast back in January that there was a gentleman in the Wellspring mastermind that I belong to. His name is Justin Rothenschaffer, I think is how we pronounce his last name. Justin had a dream about Jason's hip. Justin fixes professional athletes and helps them to be pain-free. Or that's at least what he used to do. And now he works with normal humans like yourself and mine and not professional athletes. But the Lord gave him a dream. He's a believer of how to fix Jason's hip. He took Jason down by the swimming pool in the hotel that we were at and worked on his hip for about 30, 40 minutes. My husband stood up and was completely pain-free. And so many people are like, okay, what did he do? I think what he did is considered like body work. But, that industry can be a little bit like woo-woo-ish. So there's nothing woo-woo about Justin. He is a Christian, he's a believer, but it was a combination of prayer and then like manipulating Jason's hip and legs and back. I don't know, in these weird ways that it wasn't like chiropractic and it wasn't like massage, but it was like kind of all of the things. Jason was completely pain-free for 60 days. And we were rejoicing, just like thanking the Lord. I did a post about it on social media. And, I think I even did like a podcast episode about it. And then he was walking one day with me and just, we were walking where there was just a little bit of like gravelly stuff. And he just slipped, you guys, just the smallest bit and went backwards and caught himself on, one hand. So he didn't go all the way down. And that jarring was just enough that his pain came back like full force and even worse. So that has been since March. So when people were asking this week on Instagram, how's Jason? I just want to let you know that my husband is lovely and fabulous and wonderful, and I adore him. His hip pain is absolutely ridiculous. And with everything in me, I believe that pain is not my husband's portion. One of the ladies in my mastermind, her name's Tara Wall from Consider the Fields. She has a great boutique and a t-shirt of the month club. Go listen to, or go watch her on Instagram. She has some great t-shirts if you're a believer. So again, it's called Consider the Fields. But anyhow, she messaged me that one day for Jason, and I have clung to that pain is not my husband's portion. So anyhow, I put on Instagram stories just last night that, or was it the night before? Maybe the night before, that we were praying that he was able to get an appointment in the Mayo Clinic. We had a Mayo Clinic appointment for him back last February. When he was healed temporarily in January, we went ahead and canceled it. Well, now there's been a wait to get back into the Mayo Clinic. And several people were like, well, why aren't you going to the Mayo Clinic in Phoenix? Why aren't you going to the one in Florida? Neither of them will see him. The one that has a specialist that will see him is in Rochester, Minnesota. So anyhow, Jason has contacted Rochester to get back in and they are on a wait. So they just said, continue to call. So I asked for prayer from you guys on my Instagram stories in the last couple of days, just saying, if anybody knows anybody that works at, the Rochester Mayo Clinic and can pull some strings, like, please let us know, because he's in a world of hurt and we've got to get this fixed. And so anyhow, Jason called today and they had an appointment that was open in December because somebody canceled. Praise God, you guys. So we're going to be going to Rochester before Christmas, and unless my husband has another healing before then, which I'm going to still pray for. So there's that. Another question I got this week: how did you get started in real estate investing? And what's interesting to me about that is I never in a million years would consider myself a real estate investor yet. In a perfect world, we would have a ton of different properties, all short-term rentals, because that's what I love to do in terms of like, I love the decorating piece. In terms of like buying houses and flipping them, that really doesn't trip my trigger nearly as much as a short-term rental where I can leverage my social media, and tell you guys about how you can rent bougie on the beach and bougie in the desert. But B, I love like the sofas and rugs and tchotchkes and decor. And so I wouldn't get that if we were just flipping houses. So I told her I'm not really a real estate investor. Jason and I are not real estate investors. Jason used to have his real estate license years ago. And I've loved real estate for all of my life, just loved being in houses, bought my first house when I was 21 years old, owned my painting company, which was a ton of new construction. So I've worked in the housing industry for a long, long time. She asked me if I had a resource to get started in real estate investing. And I said, well, first of all, I'm not a real estate investor. But second of all, I did do a podcast series. It's not on the regular podcast list. So it was never sent to those of you who subscribe to the Jennifer Allwood Show. If you are interested in watching it, you can go to jenniferallwood.com/short-term rental. Did I say watching it? I meant listening. Sorry. I've been off work for a while. I'm a little rusty here. So go to jenniferallwood.com/short-term rental. Just smoosh all those words together. It's a 4-part series that'll be sent to your email. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to answer that question because I thought that was important. All right. Another question. So I got a question about how do you know that you don't like Taylor Swift if you don't know anything about her? In fact, I got that question at least 3 times last night on my social media, on my Facebook page. Okay, so here's the deal. I did a podcast about 9 marketing things we can learn from Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. That just as an outsider looking in with business eyes, I'm like, these two are freaking brilliant at marketing. I mean, whether they've got a romance or it's all a setup is, either way, they're marketing geniuses. Okay. So, and so what I had put on social media, and so that's a really recent podcast episode. Go back. It's like 3 episodes back or something. What I put on a recent podcast episode is just saying that I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. I'm not a Swiftie. I don't know anything about her. I don't listen to her music. You would not catch me at one of her concerts. It's just, I'm just neutral there. And so several people were like, well, how do you know you don't like her if you don't know anything about her? And I was like, well, I mean, I just, it's not that I'm like, I hate her or anything. It's just not my cup of tea. You know what I mean? Like, I don't follow her. I'm not a Swiftie. I don't really get the obsession. I have some concerns about some of the things that I have seen in recent music videos with her. That's very dark. And what's interesting is that will stir up religious spirits, just even saying that. Just me saying, I'm concerned about some dark things I see in Taylor Swift's recent concerts. People will come out of the woodwork and they're instantly going to be DMing me that I'm a horrible human being, whatever. Okay, whatever. And so there's that. But so I just wanted to address that. Like, no, I don't know anything about her and I still know I'm not a fan. So there's that. Okay. There's that. All right. Related to that, I made the comment on my social media that I live about 15 minutes from Travis Kelce's home, and that I just drove by it the other day only because one of Ava's really close friends lives in the same neighborhood as him, and you have to drive right by his house, which is a major thoroughfare. Major street. It's on a major street in that neighborhood to get to Ava's friend's house. So anyhow, I know where he lives. And somebody said, well, what neighborhood is a new one he's moving to? And first of all, even if I knew, I wouldn't say, just because I don't want to aid in disrupting somebody's privacy. Okay. I have literally twice in my 23 years of owning a business, so that, it's not a ton, had complete strangers come to my door. And it feels so wrong. Can I just say that? It's really a vulnerable feeling. And so I would never want to aid in that. So I know he's moving to the Kansas side. God bless him, because I'm on the Missouri side and he's been living on the Missouri side. All the reports local in Kansas City say he's moving to the Kansas side. So God bless him. All right. So there's that. Somebody else was asking me about if I listened to the New Heights podcast from Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce, which I didn't even know existed because I don't watch football until all of this Kelce and Taylor Swift stuff started happening. So then, of course, like I feel emotionally invested in some of the clips. I look at one clip on my Instagram and then my feed is just full of anything that's Kelce or Swift. And so, of course, I got some reels delivered into my For You with Jason and Travis. us. And let me just tell you, they're entertaining, you guys. I think they're fabulous. And if you want to know who my favorite Kelsey is right now, I think it's Kylie. I mean, Jason's wife. She's fabulous. Have you guys listened to any of the episodes she did with them? I haven't listened to it in its entirety, but that girl's solid, and so love her. That's Jason Kelsey's wife. So, anywho, just wanted to shout out to Kylie there. Okay. Also had some questions about. I recently I must have posted something on my stories about how Ari is our adopted 9-year-old daughter who we've had for a little over 5 years. Can you guys believe that? Man, some of you have followed me and been with me long enough, and you're in my coaching group, and you remember the night that I was doing an evening training, which I rarely do. And Ari walks into the office, pitter patter, pitter patter. I had not told anybody on social media about her yet. She'd been living with us for 2 or 3 weeks at that point, and sits down on my lap and calls me mom in front of all my clients. And so some of you have been around that long. So thank you. So I must have put something on my Instagram stories about us going to see her biological side of the family. And whenever I do that, inevitably I have questions about our adoption and the fact that it's an open adoption. So first of all, before Jason and I adopted Ari, we had tried to adopt many years ago for 4 years straight. I have known since I was in high school that I was called to adoption. Several reasons for this. Number one, I have no relationship with my biological father. Yes, I know where he's at in Iowa. I know exactly who he is. He desires no relationship with me. At this point, I've made peace with that and really believe that that is his loss, because myself and my family, we're actually pretty cool humans, I think. So there's that. And, he's still alive. So there's still a potential that maybe God will change his heart. And if not, that's fine too. So I just want you to know that I've done the counseling, I've done the work. The Lord has healed me from the pain of that rejection. All right. So with that being said, when I was growing up in high school, my best friend Rachel came from one of 10 children, and 9 of the 10 children were adopted. And I spent a lot of time with Rachel's family. It was her that I first went to a non-denominational church with when I was 16 years old. And the first time she took me, I got saved. Second time I went, I got filled with the Holy Spirit. So I feel like I would love Rachel even if I wasn't saved. But I just am so grateful that she even ever asked me to church. You know what I mean? If any of you have been invited to church and you weren't saved, I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm like, thank you, Jesus, that she was bold enough to ask her best friend at 16, will you please come to church? And then they were doing an altar call, and she's like, will you go up? I'll go with you. And the fact that she said, I'll go with you, still makes me want to cry, because I love that. We get to be in heaven together. Anyhow, Rachel's family was mostly children that are adopted, including Rachel. And I spent a lot of time with their family, and I knew that I loved that. I also knew that when I married my husband's dad was one of 6 boys. My biological father is one of 9 boys. Okay. Where's there 8? Holy smokes, I'm forgetting all of a sudden, 8 or 9 boys. Anyhow, then Jason and I had 2 boys of our own. We also had 2 miscarriages, and I knew that God was going to give me a girl. And so we had Ava baby, but I also knew that I had a heart for one more, and I had a heart for us to do that through adoption. And Jason was always like, whatever you feel like we're supposed to do, and totally on board with that. So we had tried for 4 years to adopt. Then we got a phone call from, okay, I want you to follow me here, my aunt, who happens to be Ari's great-grandmother on that side of my family. Her and Ari's other great-grandmother, who was raising Ari, had been in conversation for a year about, this little girl needs a family, and we need to get her into a living arrangement with somebody that's going to take really good care of her. And so the 2 great-grandmothers, never tell me that great-grandmas, grandmas, praying grandparents don't make a difference, because they do. They got together, and they were the ones that contacted us. Ari came to spend one night with us and has been here 5.5 years, and we love and adore her, and our family is now complete. Okay, so we couldn't have done, I say that all to say, we couldn't have done a closed adoption even if we wanted to, because Ari's actually my family member. She is my cousin's granddaughter, which I think, and let me know if you're watching this on YouTube, I think makes her my 3rd cousin, but I'm not totally sure. Because then one time somebody's like, no, she's your 2nd cousin, 3 times removed or something. I'm like, I can't even follow all that. Anyhow, so we couldn't have really done a closed adoption, even though, but here's what I want you to know. even if we had adopted Ari as a newborn and had the option of a closed or open adoption, we still would have selected an open adoption. And I will tell you why. As someone who found out in a really traumatic way about the fact that I have a father I do not know, which was not the father that raised me. I found that out in a very traumatic fashion, which at some point, I think God will have me do a podcast episode about. But I never wanted her adoption to be something that was secretive or something that she saw as a bad thing or something that she perceived as lesser than. I didn't want her to ever resent Jason and I, or if we had adopted a newborn, for not giving her access to her biological family. Now, with that being said, had her biological family been like if she was in danger, if it was super traumatic for her emotionally and mentally to be in relationship with them, that would be one thing. But we have lots of boundaries. It's not, super frequently, but I would say once every 3 to 6 months, we see her biological mother. And we're actually going to see her great grandmother who she used to live with tonight. So people always ask about, the adoption process and why we still see her biological parents. And it's our feeling, my husband's and I, that this is actually the healthiest for her, to know that she is loved by both us and her first family, and to know that she's loved enough that a different living arrangement had to be made out. And so, we won't know until much later on in life if we've avoided a lot of the spirit of rejection that often comes with children who are adopted. But just know that we are praying through that. And at this point, I think it's best for Ari. Now, one of the other follow-up questions has been, when she has seen her biological family, do you have a period where her behavior is not great? And it's only been one lady that has asked this, but I thought it was a really valid question for me to answer. And the truth is, yes, we usually have about 2 days worth of recon. So it's her being more emotional. It's her being more volatile. It's her being, it almost like, imagine a 9-year-old who's overtired. It's like that sort of behavior. All the emotions are big. Everything's big. If she's whiny, it's really whiny. If she is upset about something, she's really upset about something. So everything's just really exaggerated for about 2 days after seeing, her biological side of the family. And all of those are limited to just a couple hours. And yet I will say it's still worth it. So you can feel free to ask me any questions in my Instagram DMs regarding that. I'm happy to talk to you about it. So there's that. And the last question I was going to answer is, hang on here while I get a little drinky drink. If you guys drink, by the way, electrolytes, I am so in love with these electrolytes. I just got off Amazon. It's like LMNT. Am I supposed to say LMNT or am I supposed to say element? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, love them. Okay, side note. Last thing. People have asked me a lot, are your ears still ringing? For those of you that are new to my podcast or new to me, about a year, and it'll be 2 years in December, you guys, 2 years in December. I got an ear infection. And about a week after I got the ear infection, you're still on antibiotics, whatever, I flew to Bougie on the Beach in Florida because I was finishing decorating it. And on the airplane, my ears were popping. You know how when you're descending and your ears will sometimes pop? Well, when you have an ear infection, even just on the tail end of it, you guys, I thought my head was going to explode. My ears were popping so bad and it was so much pressure. And then, my ears got clogged. And when I say clogged, it's like I was wearing earmuffs and hearing through earmuffs, but mostly just on my left ear. So that went on for 2 months. And then all of a sudden in March, so a whole year and a half ago, my left ear started ringing. And it's called tinnitus or tinnitus. People pronounce it both ways. I have been to ear, nose, and throat specialist. Waste of time. They don't know. Their answer is menopause. Every time it's menopause. When they don't know, we'll just slap menopause on it. So there's that. I've been to a regular doctor. I've been to functional medicine doctors. I have been to chiropractors to have my ears adjusted. I have had acupuncture in my ear, literally. Yes, I do have TMJ on that same side of my face, and I do believe that they're very much related. But the answer to the question is yes, my ear is still ringing. No, I have not figured out anything to make it go away. Yes, I have learned to deal with it. No, I don't plan on having this forever. So there's that. I belong to like some ear ringing groups, and people are like, I've just learned to live with it for 30 years. And I'm like, oh, heck no. Oh, heck no. I serve a God that he can take care of that in a nanosecond if he wants to. So that's where I'm at with the ear ringing. So, all right, friends, those are the list of questions that I was like, I've got a lot of things that people keep asking me. Let me just do like almost like a Q&A on this podcast. And so I hope that was helpful for you. I gave a couple of resources. The short-term rental one was jenniferallwood.com/short-term rental. You can look up Bougie on the Beach on Instagram to rent that, Bougie in the Desert on Arizona to rent that. One of the questions I forgot to answer is people said, which one do you prefer? And I told you that I like the beach and Jason likes the other one in the desert, but they're very different. Bougie on the Beach is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. In the desert is a 5-bedroom. And one of those bedrooms has like bunk beds and a twin. So there's actually 7 beds in that house. So a 5-bedroom, 3.5 bath. So very, very different. One's next to the water, one's next to cactuses. And so I actually did on my Instagram account this week, I did a post just telling people just to save this, because people always ask me, oh, that is my alarm to go get my daughter off the bus stop. People always ask me the differences. There's a lot of differences. So go look at that if you want to. I think that I talked about everything else. You guys are amazing. Let me know if there's any other questions I can answer for you. If you send them on Instagram, I'm always relatively quick to answer. Facebook, I'm a lot slower because the Facebook DMs are gross, you guys. They're just gross. They're, you violated this and your page is at risk of coming down and stuff that's just nonsense and spam. And don't click on any of those links, by the way. The people in my training groups know this, but hope that that's helpful. Love you guys. Be blessed. I'm going to the bus stop. Bye-bye. All right, Easton, how did your mama do? I forgot to put the mic in front of my mouth for like over half of that. So the audio could be horrible. Sorry about that. We'll blame that on menopause also.